Hi guys, this is Mattman here, and as you can see, we still have this new series thing on the board, and this new series thing is coming very soon, maybe later today, maybe not. Today is not a new series video though, because today we're actually going to do something a little bit different, which is that we're going to look at a book. To be exact, we are going to look at this book, which is essentially a history of the world in maps. Now I just got to find the correct page here, but we should be able to find the correct page and officially be able to, because there's some really good maps in here, and since my channel focuses here we are, this map. Now, when I got this book a couple days ago, this map fascinated me so much that I've decided to make a video about it. And today's video is going to be not very much, it's going to be kind of a mix between a history video and a top 10 style video. And what I mean by that is we're going to look at, in my opinion, the best ways to cross the ocean and the best points to cross the ocean as well. Because there's some ways where you can cross the ocean that are pretty good, and there's some ways that you can cross the ocean that are not so great. So, I just gotta make the map of the world, and we will see which expeditions look the best and which expeditions look the worst. And these include all of these expeditions from Moana. So we'll just look at all of the passages. We're going to use blue dry erase marker. And I'm just going to make a map of North America. This one might look a little more sloppy than usual because I'm trying to get it done quickly. Map of North America, and then here's like Mexico and the Caribbean, and there's like Louisiana, and there's the U.S. East Coast. And here is, I don't need to draw the Great Lakes really. I mean, I'm kind of lazy, so I'm not going to draw the Great Lakes really. And down here we have Hudson's Bay, and I'm kind of lazy, so I'm not going to draw the Canadian Ocean. But I will draw Baffin Island because it's Baffin Island. Okay, so this is North America, and even though it looks really sloppy, sorry guys for that, you're just going to have to deal with it. So, Native Americans lived here in the first place, and Europeans lived on the other side of the world, off the map. And in this map, which shows the rest of the world as well, and there's two ways you can draw that, we can see that North America, Europe, Africa, and South America are all separated by this giant landmass known as the Atlantic Ocean. However, you probably already knew that. But the Atlantic Ocean was the prime way that Europeans got to America. And some sailors, like the Russians, which come in later, even used the Pacific Ocean to go into Alaska. Today, we'll be looking at which explorers made good choices by using good geographic routes. Now, I also forgot to draw the Caribbean islands in here because they also play another important part in this story. So I'll just quickly draw those see which explorers used good geography positions and which ones used bad geographic positions. Now first, we have Columbus. Columbus, the person who made this channel go from 9 subscribers to 22. Columbus. Okay, so we have the Iberian Peninsula here. Iberia Peninsula, if you didn't know, which you probably did, is a peninsula that includes the nations of Portugal and Spain. And it was always essentially like that. I mean, it wasn't always like that, but you get the point. Portugal and Spain. They're two nations, and they kind of get along. I mean, sometimes Portugal and Spain have been unified, and other times they've been bitter enemies of each other. So, kind of allies, kind of not. But back then, way back when, in Lisbon lived a ambitious Genoese sailor. And Lisbon is the capital of Portugal, as you may know. This sailor's name was Columbus, and he asked the King of Portugal to maybe request a voyage to America. The Portuguese king and his advisors and sailors were like, nah man, no. We already got Da Gama, and we already got Africa, and we have a new way to get to India. And the reason why this was a big concept at the time was because of the Ottoman Empire. Now, the Ottoman Empire was an empire. Here, I'll go back to this world map because it's better than mine. The Ottoman Empire was an empire right about here. And there is a sea right here called Black Sea. And there's another place here called the Bosphorus Straits. And as you can see, there's another place here called the Suez Canal, or the Suez Passage, as it was known back then. And the Suez Passage, which eventually became a canal later on, was blocked by the Ottomans because the Ottomans controlled it. So European explorers used to be able to get to India the easy way by just going through the Suez and getting to India. But now that the Ottoman Empire had blocked that route, new sailors like Columbus, Da Gama, Frobisher, Cabot, all of those people, they began looking for new routes to circumnavigate the world and most importantly get to India. So, the point is that Columbus had no luck with Portugal. He tried with a few other nations too. He finally got some luck with Spain. And this is where the famous Columbus voyage story starts, that we've talked about in previous episodes. And as you may know, Columbus was actually most likely not the first person to get to the Americas. He was actually probably one of the first Europeans to get to the Americas, but definitely not the first. Because we definitely have evidence that the Vikings formed a colony on the island of Newfoundland in Canada. And that is similarly pretty backed up by the scientific community. So he was not the first European to land in the Americas. And it could have actually been Basque or Genoese settlers, or Basque people, or people that come from this part of Spain. And they were famous navigators. And some people even believe that they gave Columbus the idea to sail to this new land. The Portuguese also have evidence of fishing around Cape Cod, and we talked about this in my Columbus misconceptions video. So anyways, Columbus gets privilege from the king and queen of Spain, Isabella and Ferdinand, to go to the Americas. And they got this permission after some controversy and mistakes, and they were able to go to the Americas and landed on a tiny island in the Bahamian archipelago. And this was the first time when major European expeditions that were properly set up actually got to the Americas. I say major European expeditions because, like I said before, there were most likely other expeditions that came before the famous Columbus voyage. And I'm going to draw in the rest of the Bahamian Islands in here so you can get a picture. Anyways, Columbus traveled in this pink line right here. He traveled from Spain and went to this island in the Bahamas, and then he went back home. And Columbus made a good choice in his navigation because he used a cardinal direction, which is this way, to get from Spain to America. And that is a good choice for your direction to get to the Americas because it revolves around the way where you can get to the Americas on a sailor perspective. And it kind of has to do with the Mercator problem that we can talk about later. Okay, next is Portugal and their ways of exploring. Now, Portugal, what I didn't mention before is that there is another continent here called Africa. And Africa, as you may know, is a very rich and diverse continent with multiple people groups. And they are very, and Africa will later be colonized by the Europeans, but we're not there yet. However, the Portuguese, one of the major reasons for some historians think that they turned down Columbus's proposal was that they already had discovered new trade routes to get to India. And sorry guys, I'm really lazy right now, so I'm just gonna draw all of Asia over here. And I'm gonna pretend that this is the world, this is like China, and this is India. So all of these explorers, what they wanted to do was found new trade routes to get to India. Because India, to Europeans at the time, was considered essentially the center of culture in the world. That's where Europeans got their spice from. That's where Europeans did stuff. And Europeans wanted to get to India, especially the Portuguese, by inventing the caravel, which was a lightweight ship invented by Portuguese explorers. They were able to explore and actually dwarf the Spanish's dominion over America. And when they got to, and they were able to get and circumnavigate the African continent. By doing this, they were able to create many trade ports around Africa, including the Gold Coast, the Gorée colony, the Cape of Good Hope, which they had some trading outposts, and they were even able to colonize ports on the eastern coast of Africa. This would later lead to the establishment of colonies of Mozambique, Angola, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau, and many other smaller colonies on the islands, but those were the major ones. And Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama, as well as much later in 1500, explorer Cabral, were able to get to the Americas. I mean, not to the Americas, to India. And Vasco da Gama became one of the first Europeans, not the first, definitely not the first, that's been proven, to get to India. Definitely one of the first Portuguese people to get to India. And so did Cabral later on. And these explorers later found colonies like Calicut and Goa in India, which were originally trade colonies. In fact, Goa, the latter of the two, was only handed back to India in like 1960, making it the last piece of India to be decolonized. So there's actually some other ways to get to India, to get to the Americas as well. And the next strategy we'll be looking at is France. Now, France wasn't too much involved in America in until later with the Quebec thing, but they did give their best shots. First of all, between 1534 to 1536, they sent the Cartier expedition, Jacques Cartier, to explore new land in the Americas. He set off from Brittany and landed up here in Canada. And that is okay place to land, but the thing is, it's actually a lot more straight. I'm just drawing it badly. But as you can see on this better map here, the French as well as the English had good geographic position to cross over because they had the straightest, they had the shortest point between America and Europe between them. So basically, they had the shortest possible crossing. The French and the English had the shortest possible crossing between Europe and North America, which was important because it minimized time. And it actually helped minimize time so much so, in fact, that it ended up making a whole new host of colonies. Now, I'll be back in a second. Okay, guys, I'm back. Actually, you know what? That's not me. Okay, guys, I'm back for real this time. So, the next logical step was for England to get colonies. The problem with England is that they had both the best colonial position, but at the same time, the worst colonial position. So, there were two famous explorers from England who tried two different strategies that both could work. The first strategy was when Cabot set off from England in 1498 or 1497, I believe, and landed on the island of Newfoundland. This was a successful voyage because it used an even shorter point than Jacques Cartier's expedition for France. And the second English explorer was Martin Frobisher, who set off from East Anglia, which is right here. Now, he actually, in my opinion, made a mistake by going too far north. Instead of taking the route that Cabot took through warm, fresh waters to Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, Frobisher went around Britain, made a pit stop in Norway and Iceland, and landed on Baffin Island, which is not a very good place to build a colony at all, so it was quickly abandoned. Hudson, however, a Dutch explorer, made better choices and used the same route as Frobisher, but used common transport to discover the tip of a large, little-known inlet in the Northwest Passage. This area was later named Hudson's Bay. Also, Hudson later on became one of the first Europeans to discover this river, which was later also named the Hudson River. And there is some people who think that the Hudson's Bay and Hudson's River are connected. But that would be true if it weren't for the greater St. Lawrence River, which actually dips into the Great Lakes system. And even though I said I'm not going to draw the Great Lakes, I'm just going to draw a really lazy Great Lakes because I am really lazy today, I guess. So later, it was time for all these countries to establish their first colonies. And we're going to see where they established their colonies. Portugal wasn't interested in the Americas at first, so we'll have to wait for them to establish a colony. But the first colony was, of course, Columbus's colony. And Columbus's colony became so profitable that it eventually became not Columbus's colony, and instead was put in under Spanish management. The Spanish ended up conquering a whopping territory that included a lot of land. This in Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. This would be named New Spain later on. And New Spain became the most profitable colony in the Americas at the time. The Aztecs, who lived in this part of Mexico, were very brutally conquered by the Spanish. The Mayans had the same problem, but the Mayans actually were able to resist for longer than the Aztecs. Now the other thing that's important in the eventual extinction of over 90% of the Native Americans is that unfortunately most of the killing was not done by actual killing and rape and murder, but it was actually done by more methods by mostly diseases that natives didn't have immunity to, which is super unfortunate and kind of sucks, but was a thing that happened, and it was able to wipe out over 90% of the Native Americans who once lived in North America, which kind of sucks. But the Native Americans that still live today, like the Dakota Sioux, the Ojibwe, and many others, like the Iroquois, many others, they still populate this great land, but it's never the same anymore because now they're a part of a new nation, a nation that sometimes doesn't treat them fairly. They are a part of the United States of America, the great old US of A. And that is where we are going to stop for today, my friends. This is Mattman signing off.